Well, hello there, you beautiful, beautiful, amazing, wonderful people. This is video 2 of 2, and it's Saturday, baby. It's Saturday, it's the weekend. I hope you're doing more interesting things than I'm doing. We're still in the process of moving. As you can see, the house, the picture and everything is gone. And yes, we are slowly emptying the house, and we will be in new premises real soon. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Lots going on. But anyway, in this video, you're looking absolutely amazing, by the way. We're going to go through the Goncalves family page post, referencing the 911 call and just seeing whether we agree with it or not, and just touching on some elements of, again, typical, so we call them Goncalvesisms, the isms. So as we continue to process the 911 call, we just wanted to share some of our thoughts. And what I will premise this by saying is, look, at the end of the day, the Goncalves family lost a child. They lost a child. I don't agree with 99% of the things that they've said, but I can't take away from the fact that they have gone through a truly horrendous, perhaps one of the most horrendous things anybody can imagine going through. And that's, my heart goes out to them in that sense, but that is where my sympathies start and end. So this call, I can understand that it hits them differently than it hits me, hits you. Obviously, if you've been in similar situations, you will feel a certain way about the call as well, and it will lead you to perhaps look at it in a different way that people who don't have skin in the game do. But look, let's just carry on. So we stand together with all the victims of Idaho, both those we have lost and those who remain, forever marked by a tragedy that no passage of time will ever erase. Which is right. Do you know what I mean? There was loss of life and many people impacted by that. Both the immediate victims, those that survived, those that are still involved in it, even the Brian Kohberger family have been affected by this. Whether Brian Kohberger was innocent or guilty of the crime, there are reverberations that go far beyond 1122 King Road and those that lost their lives on that night. So we do want to just acknowledge that. This is a huge loss for many people who, some of them we haven't even seen or heard yet. The 911 call, it is not the neatly rehearsed dialogue of a well-crafted story, not the polished performance you might expect from a Hollywood script. Now, this is the first part that I kind of disagree with, because when they say it's not polished, it felt polished. It felt polished because, again, I can only consider, and if you missed my first video today, where I rarely do look at the call, and look, I didn't mention some of the obvious things like the no mention of blood, but I go into like the first domino fall and what triggered the call in the first place and my thoughts and feelings around it. But to me, the call wasn't raw, and despite media wanting to portray it, and the Goncalves family want to portray it in a certain light, yes, there is an element to obviously somebody heavy breathing on the phone. It reminded me back at school some of the calls I received from the girls, and do you know what I mean? There was this heavy breathing, there was people upset, but I think to myself, what would you do if you walked into a house and saw the scene that we've been told happened, whoever it was? Do you know what I mean? I think that you would then see a completely, again, maybe it's expectations, and again, I touch on this in video 1, because of the picture that we've been given and we've now got seared into our minds, we then compare that to the reaction on the phone. But because it was almost mute and clinical, I feel that there was a rawness that was missing from it. I did expect more. I did expect a lot more. I don't think anybody could have been prepared for walking in and seeing what they saw. And if they were able to remain in a certain sort of passive way and stoic about it, then that says a lot about the individual who walked in there and was able to remain. But we'll come back to that. It's raw, it's jagged, a searing, unvarnished truth that no camera could ever cope to capture. Every breath, every cry, Every tremor in the voice reveals a reality so cruel, so brutally honest, it cuts deeper than anything fiction could devise. This sounds like it was written by Howard Bloom, the Blumberbus. It definitely. I can't see this being written by Steve or Christie. It might have been, but it reads more like a Howard Bloom novel. After hearing that call, one thing is clear. Hunter, with his quiet, stoic resolve, protected those girls from a nightmare that no one should ever be forced to witness. He stepped into the abyss, shielding them from horrors that will haunt them forever. Again, it reads like a Howard Bloom model. I can't get that out of my head. Which adds to, when I read this almost adds to the court, the entire fucking thing it's like a book. I'm reading a book. I'm reading a fucking story. Do you know what I mean? And even though I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, because at the end of the day, I feel that when people go down that rabbit hole, sometimes it's a little bit you're fucking skating on thin ice. But I can understand why people will turn around and say, "Well, this is a fucking psyop, mate. This is a psyop." I don't believe any of it because you've got a call that just seems rehearsed to me. It seems rehearsed. I can't understand why the call was taking place in the first place because I think, okay, I'm trying to picture what happened. So Dylan and Bethany are in the house. They're trying to call, can't get through to anybody. But they at no point for a long period of time think to call anybody around, right, for help or assistance in the immediate aftermath. And they don't go and physically venture into the house. They just go and knock on someone's door and say, "Are you there?" And don't get me fucking started with frozen shock face. They were ringing, they were texting, they were compass mentis. They knew something had happened in that house, and something had happened. We know it's happened because we're here, sitting here having this discussion. So something happened, they knew about it, they didn't call 911, they didn't call anyone over. But then at some point, it would appear that they then do call someone over. So at that point, someone comes over. So if we say Hunter then, for the purpose of the conversation, Hunter comes over because they've said, "Look, mate, we've been trying to get hold of everybody. We don't know what's going on." And he comes over and goes to go into Xana and Ethan's room. At the point he enters Xana and Ethan's room, he knows what's happened. You're not walking into that room and thinking someone is passed out. You're not walking into that room thinking that someone's unconscious. You're not walking into that room thinking that they are any longer with us. That fucking ship has sailed. And if he's walked into that room, Hunter has walked into that room, he knows that at this point. So in order to protect the girls, because this is what we're going down the route of, we're saying he's protecting them. So at that point, why doesn't he shut the door? If he's got his own phone, get the girls and say, "We need to go outside. Let's go outside and we'll call 911. They need help." And he gets on the phone because he's the person who's come over. He's been called over. He's the one who's entered the fucking room. So he is the only person on that call and makes it very, very abundantly clear what has happened and what he has witnessed and seen in that room. That's what I can't understand. That's stepping into the abyss. That's protecting someone. There is still this call that has got people on there that are seemingly suggesting they don't know what's happened. And you've got a situation where part of that, which I did touch on earlier, and I've said it before, was about giving their story from the night previous. And again, I claim relevance. What's the relevance then? Why are you thinking there's relevance there if you don't know anything? Because for me, that call, as the dispatcher quite rightly pushed across, the purpose of my call is to offer immediate assistance to those who need it. That's what I'm on the phone for. Is someone hurt? Is there anything that I can do that needs to be done to preserve life? But that person, which seems to be Dylan Mortensen, it isn't about that. It's not the preservation or of the victim. This is about conveying story. And I can't find the relevance of it. I can't find what makes this call make sense. Because again, if the girls hadn't seen or heard or knew anything and they just called people over and they were not wanting to go and see Kaylee and Maddie, they didn't want to go and see Ethan and that because they were scared what they were going to see. Again, I'd have to question why you'd be scared of what you was going to see and still hadn't fucking made a call if you even had considered something like that. But he goes into the room, and then we still have this confusion situation, and that's what I can't make sense of. Because if he is, again, what the Goncalves family want you to kind of believe that is happening here, again, he could have made that call himself. He could have got the girls out of the house, shut the fucking door, not let anybody else in that house, and very simply conveyed on the phone what was going on. But again, hindsight's a motherfucker, isn't it? For that, the Goncalves family owes him a debt that words cannot repay. If you were expecting a neat cinematic conclusion, something palatable, well, that was palatable. Something that offers closure, let me make this clear. The real world does not operate on such terms. The terror of the night cannot be cleanly packaged, wrapped in a bow, or distilled into a simple, digestible narrative. Well, you seem to be wanting to digest it in a one single, digestible narrative, don't you? Yeah, I feel that you've kind of it can't be wrapped up simply. It is very, very complex, but you want to try and make it seem simple, and you're going to see in a second. It is ugly, it's painful, it's the kind of horror that shakes you to your deepest core. These were not adults, they were children. They were young adults. They weren't children, they were young adults. They were absolutely young adults, like 20 years old. Do you know what I mean? And especially at that age, you know to call 911 if you feel that you're in immediate danger. 5-year-olds do it. But again, this is about pushing children because people are like, but they're young adults. They were children, still clinging to the fragile threads of innocence when the world was violently torn from them in an instant. In closing, let us face the uncomfortable truth. Had the 911 call been made the moment the accused left the house, it would not have saved anyone. So again, we're saying that they were so violently attacked and the injuries were so bad that nothing could have been done to save them. Nothing could have been done. That's what we have to go with. So it's fair to assume that the person who saw the victims before they got on that call absolutely knew that nothing could be done. Nothing could be done whatsoever. So they knew it. They knew it. Nothing would have changed. So we ask respectfully, please do not waste your energy pointing fingers at those who could not have prevented it. How do you know what could and could not have been prevented? They want you to believe that people are asleep in the house, but we now know that's not fucking true. So how do we know what could and couldn't have been prevented? How do we know that? Unless you've got fucking camera footage of what actually happened, how do you know how this took place? Even if you want to say Brian Kohberger did it. Brian Kohberger did this crime. Absolutely, he did it then. So how did he do it? And how do you know that at no point there was a situation inside that house that would have meant that there would have been other survivors in there, and that wasn't impacted by the actions of others? How do you know that? How do you know that if Dylan Mortensen was involved and in there and come out, how do you know that she didn't? How do you know that this person didn't enter into the house just to go and, if you want to say Maddie was the target, for instance, and he was going to go upstairs, execute Maddie and leave? But it was the actions of other people in the house that led them to go venture in other places in the house for a start. Do you know what I mean? You don't know how it all played out. You don't know how things could have been changed, altered. You don't know. It says, the anger, the grief, the pain, they must all be focused on one thing. One person. The one who stole the innocence of Moscow that night. We demand justice, and that cause is all the that matters now. The one person. So I would definitely believe that it's one person now, even though earlier on, even Steve Goncalves was alluding to the fact that there could have potentially been multiple people. They didn't have to go upstairs. Maybe it was verbiage and he meant they as in the person who did it. The Moscow Police Department alluding to the fact that there was a white car with occupants in it. Just looking at the dynamic of the crime and how it happened, it reeks of multiple perpetrators. And in addition to that, we've got multiple DNA samples at the immediate crime scene that weren't looked into adequately because FBI said Brian Koberger's your man. Go and check him out. So they left it. But you've got them specifically. It's all these things coming out together are brilliant. Just the one person. We know who that's being aimed at. But anyway, I just don't. I can't get my head around this call. I don't agree with the things that are being said. I appreciate the gravity, the magnitude of it, and how it'll affect people who've got skin in the game. But I can't get my head around the fact that this call seems to be staged. In the fact that someone, why did they call 911 in the first place? Someone must have entered into one of these rooms and seen something in order to call 911. And I would say that whoever did that absolutely, undeniably knew that that person was deceased. And if it was indeed Hunter, why didn't Hunter make the call and explain exactly what happened? It seemed to be, it was elaborated upon. The entire situation seemed to be a story to get across what happened and interject with these things. Oh, last night someone was here. That's my thoughts of it. That's my takeaway. Love you all, and I'll catch you all tomorrow live as we go over the Idaho 4 fact or fiction together. Mwah.